Welcome to the Idea Climbing Podcast. In our more and more AI-driven world, meaningful relationships are harder to come by and then build. Today, we're discussing how to create meaningful relationships as well as ways to meaningfully embrace AI and not get lost in the shuffle. My guest is Casey Cheshire. Casey is a seasoned marketer with over 2 decades of experience and the author of Marketing Automation Unleashed, a guide to leveraging marketing technology for business growth. Is the founder and CEO of Ringmaster Conversational Marketing, a B2B podcasting agency. He helps businesses build authentic connections with their audiences. We dive into topics such as how to grow your business with integrity without pitch slapping everyone you meet, examples of AI prompts to create authentic content true to your voice, the one thing above all else you need to do to create and build meaningful relationships in our AI-driven world, and more golden nuggets of advice. You're going to love this show. Thank you for making time to be a guest on the Idea Climbing Podcast, Casey. I really appreciate you.
Hey, man, thanks. I'm stoked to be here. I'm ready for an adventure.
Well, we're going to have one. We're going to talk about strategies, tips, and tricks about how to build meaningful relationships in a constantly more AI-driven world. Before we get into some of the strategies, as far as cutting through the noise in the AI-driven world and people losing some meaningful relationships, why is that important to you? What's your story with, AI relationships?
Man, we are just getting so disconnected. If I were to ask you, hey, can you name 7 customers by company name? You could probably do it, might pull it off. But if I were to say, hey, give me first and last name of 7 customers, what's that delay? What's that? It's like, there's a little gap there where you're like, can I name 7? Can we? And what that is, we're disconnected. We're getting more and more disconnected. We're throwing these tools in the way because the tools promise to make everything better, right? And they look fancy and they have cool reporting. And so we think maybe this will solve my customer problem. Maybe I'll get more leads this way, or maybe I'll get more customers. But all it's doing is putting layers and layers and layers in between us and our buyer, in between us and our customer. And then we start not really knowing what's going on. And then, you know what? Like AI, we start to hallucinate when we don't have all that data. We don't actually know anything about our customer. We don't know their name. We certainly don't know what's keeping them up at night. And so then we just make up what we think is keeping them up at night. And then our products and our services start to morph in that direction. And then it's like, well, no wonder that campaign you just sent out, beautiful email, you thought it was going to be awesome, and you got crickets back. Or you had a webinar and no one showed up, or a few people did. I once had a breakfast, lunch, and learn, ordered this whole breakfast for everyone, giant vat of bacon. And I love bacon. But guess what? Like 2 people showed up. We were eating bacon for days at that point. But you want a whole room full of people. Well, what happened? Why were those messages just falling flat? It's because we were disconnected. We didn't know what the heck our buyer wanted. And we just put all these apps in the way. And the crazy thing is, AI is not making this easier. AI is not getting us more connected. It's actually adding even more noise to the thing. The idea, it's like it's noisy. It's always been noisy, but now it's getting really noisy because AI is just going to make tons of content, tons of marketing, might even have conversations with people, like fake conversations. So it's just going to get noisier. And one of the things is we're not going to be able to just do more of the same or like do better of the status quo. It's just not going to work. We have to pivot hard on this thing to avoid just getting wrapped up in all this disconnected noise.
So if someone's listening, watching right now, it's like, okay, totally get it. It makes sense. Where do you start? You realize what you just said, there's noise, and there's a lot of it here. There's disconnect. Where do you start to break through the noise? How can you get started on the journey of cutting through the noise and either reconnecting with or connecting with existing or connecting with new potential clients, referral sources? Where do you start with getting through the noise?
Yeah, it's a revolutionary thought. Having a call, having a little conversation. And you know what's crazy? Myself, marketing, you name it, whether you're the founder, whether you're the marketer, sales, they'll reach out, but it's a different kind of reach out. We need to be reaching out to learn, right? To ask those questions. Hey, what are your goals this year? What are you trying to achieve? Do you see any kind of things like this helping you with that? What are your responsibilities? What do you get hired and raises for? What do you get fired for? What are the things that are really bothering you? What are the challenges, right? We're not really inquiring. Sometimes if we do get on the phone with folks, we're just sort of pitching them. We're like soft pitching. We're not really listening to them, and we're just waiting for an opportunity to say our thing. But we got to just take a step back and just get on a conversation where we're trying to learn. And maybe you think you know, and that's the worst case when you think you're the customer because maybe you're a marketer selling to marketers or you're a manufacturer selling to manufacturers. Hey, you were an engineer, you're selling to engineers. But you know what? Times change all the time. You got to put that, it makes it harder for you because you think you know everything. You got to put that aside and say, pretend like I've never been in this industry. Let me ask some questions of these people. And so you just got to start with just asking questions.
Well, once you cut through the noise, how do you keep it out from coming back in? How do you keep a conversation going over multiple touch points with all the noise out there that's getting in the way?
Yeah, no, 100%. And this is the thing, like, this is not getting better, right? This is accelerating. So it's not going to get a little bit, it's going to continually get more and more noisy. And so I've got a friend who is like the AI expert, not the one spouting things on YouTube and social media. He's not telling anyone anything. He's in his room. He is coding. Things are happening. And he's saying, hey, in 5 years, this is going to get weird. It's cool now. It's going to be really cool for the next couple of years. But at some point, this inflection point is going to hit. And it's just going to be a complete flurry of things. And no one's going to even believe anyone or trust anyone. So what you do now to prepare yourself in this, and this is a good habit anyways, is to build an audience of people who trust you. And a lot of that's going to come from the one-to-one and some of the one-to-many. So like podcasts are great for this. Communities are great for this. Build the audience now with individual connections and then multiple connections and getting your audience to talk to each other even. Build those trusted communities of actual real people. So as things start getting more and more fake, everyone knows who to look at. They're looking at you and they can trust you.
What are some ways to build trusted communities? Because I can imagine getting a lot of different people's attention is one thing, but when you use the word community, that's a different animal. How do you build a trusted community?
You know, number one rule, stop trying to sell everyone things, right? So first of all, put the hold on the sale. The sale will happen much more organic if you're not trying to, like if you make a quote community and you immediately start to pitch something, you are done. You just wasted it. So stop. It's not about pitching your thing. That will come. It's like a delayed gratification. I know the cupcake looks yummy, but put it down. Okay. Wait a little bit, grow the community. So first and foremost, you gotta kill that sales script. They're trying to think that you're going to get like a instant ROI out of it. You might get some deals closing right away because people have that pain and they want your stuff, but don't get tricked into thinking that this is going to be just like a funnel. You're going to squeeze people into your community and out comes revenue. It will happen, but it's a different thing. Remember, we're not doing more of the same. We got to pivot and be different. The other thing that we got to think about here is helping people out. We got to help them with information and solve their problems, solve their pain, right? And maybe you're the one to do it. Maybe you're bringing someone in to do it. But you want to feed the community knowledge and information. Breakout sessions. One of the best things I see about communities is not, hey, look at me chit-chatting. I'm just saying, hey, welcome. I'm glad you're all here. You know, you matter. Let's get into this thing. Let's lead some discussions. But it's the breakout sessions. 3 or 4 peers, they're chatting, they're having a good time, they're learning from each other, they're networking, they're connecting afterward. That really starts making a community. But finally, we talk about trust, right? Classic lesson in trust. Say what you're going to do and actually do it in small and large degrees, right? So before you even get in a deal cycle, any of those things, the way you can start building trust on a pod or in a community is saying what you're going to do. Hey, on this podcast interview, I'm going to ask you this question and then this question. And then actually do that, right? Don't, hey, surprise, I'm actually going to ask you, what's your biggest failure? Like, what? You like freak people out. No. You want to say what you're going to do and actually deliver on it. And what people understand is those little tiny things actually start building the foundation of a giant $1 million trust, right? You got to start with the small things. If I can even just tell you, hey, we're going to do this is going to happen, or you're going to get on this community, you know, you show up in this meeting and we're going to chat about a strategy and they're going to do some breakouts. You're going to learn and meet each other. If I say that's what's going to happen, you join and that's what happens. Okay, well, I didn't get tricked. You know, we're all expecting that. We're also cynical. We expect to be tricked on these things. So have a promise, deliver on it in just small ways, and that will build a mountain.
Well, you mentioned not shoving people into a sales funnel, but at the end of the day, let's say for entrepreneurs, salespeople, at the end of the day, you have to have revenue. So what do you do to bridge that gap with integrity between having conversations, you're building trust, everything you just said, to building your business? What does that bridge look like and building it with integrity and not just pitch slapping everyone you meet?
Yeah, you can't do that. You're so right, man. People will see that and they will just immediately run for the hills, and you're done. So, the first thing that comes to mind with that is that you have to really set it up with the targeting first. I found that with podcasts, with community, if you're targeting a spot on, if you're getting people on the show or you're connecting with people and they have the immediate problem that you can solve, then it's almost inevitable, right? If the targeting is hardcore, you don't have to be hardcore in the sale. But if the targeting is weak, the sale has to be strong, right? So I would much rather have a strong targeting and a nice relaxed sale process versus the other, right? So I know, for instance, like, hey, I know this person has this particular app. They have HubSpot, they have Pardot, they have some kind of tool. I know they have that tool and I know I can help them with that. And we all know that those tools generally don't fix themselves. So people probably have issues. All right, I'm going to search and find those people, get them as guests in my community or my show that I know I can help out. And I'm not going to pitch slap them. I'm just going to say, hey, here's what we do. Here's the kind of people that are listening in the audience. Let's talk about you, right? We planted the seed. We're not going further into that. We're not doing a sales pitch. It's a prep call or it's a podcast or a community. So we're planting the seed. So it's okay to let people know what you do in case they need some answers, but we're not going to jump out of the gate and just throw it at them right away. The second thing we need to do on that is just be mindful of what happens after the podcast. And that's really where community comes in, right? Podcast times community equals a million, right? Or a million billion, or Dr. Evil, a million billion billion and so there's the short term, there's a podcast where you have a deep connection you created. And then there's the community where it's a little bit lighter connection. I don't say shallow, but like lighter touch, but it can be a long-term light touch. So you need to balance like those deep connections. Hey, we had an experience together. And then also have those lighter touches of, and we're in a community together. And I've seen you 4 or 5 times on those meetings.
When you're building the community and you have touch points, sometimes it could be, if you're talking about sales, there's longer sales cycle. What suggestions do you have for people, for lack of a better term, to keep on keeping on? It's like, I'm not getting a hit today. I'm not getting hit. How do you keep on building relationships and not slip into pushy sales mode?
Tough. Not going to say it's not tough. It is tough. I was just having a podcast chat with someone else who dropped a stat on me saying that, at any given point, maybe 3% of people are in market. 3% of the people who could buy from you are like in the market to buy from you. That is a terrible number, right? Unless you've got, 1 million billion people, and then 3% of that sounds pretty good. But the idea that just being a small fraction of the folks who are actively shopping, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that that's the only people that are going to buy. Some people don't know there's a problem. And so that number gets actually a little bit larger if you're helping educate the people you encounter, but some of the challenges they have. And they may just not know who to shop for, or they may be just like, hey, you know what? This is not good, but status quo is not as painful. But man, if someone came along and could just remove that from us, we might actually be in the market. So there's certain things that can happen to tweak that. You don't have to be just totally negative about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it can be a lengthy sales cycle. We have to, batten down the hatches for the longer sales cycle and be prepared for that. And a lot of this is going to be internal communication to really just share with people like, hey, we can't just be looking at old school metrics. ROI is such a lagging indicator. Plus the sales cycle, it may be 1.5 years before we get feedback on if it's working or not. So we have to be not relying on those metrics, but really thinking about the connections we're making up front.
Well, to build community the right way and do everything that we're talking about right now, how do you see AI being a positive? How can you leverage AI to actually help build your community?
Yeah. It's interesting because some marketer somewhere called it AI really, what is it? It's like an algorithm, right? It's an algorithm. We're matching things. We're doing some calculus between the distance of numbers. So in the end, it's not like it's inventing it from scratch. It's really it's sort of feeding us back something that it ate somewhere else with a little bit of change here and there. And so one of the things is AI by itself terrible for just making content. We can see it, right? You can see it in comments, you can see it in blog posts. It has that same feel. It just looks like, and so we're good at it. They can smell ads, they can smell when it's spam, and we're gonna be really good. We're gonna get really good at smelling AI generated content. If we aren't already, like we're gonna get so much better at it. So we're just gonna spot it. It's gonna be like the lame thing. My kids would say, "Dad, that's cringe," right? Like, ugh, like you wrote that with AI, you know?
Oh,
Well, you couldn't write it yourself, you know? And then people are just going to disengage from you. So you can do it wrong. But to your point, the positive side is what you feed it often indicates what you're going to get out in return. And if you rely on it just to search the web and look at everyone's terrible blog posts, and who knows what you're going to get. But if you feed it things like an organic conversation that happened between two wizards, like what's happening right now,
mhm.
and you feed this conversation to AI and you say, hey, let's repurpose this content for people who like short form, for people who like long form. Let's write some blog posts. Let's write an ebook. Let's like repurpose the content here. And then you give it some instructions like, don't go try to grab stuff from elsewhere. Just use the words that Casey and Mark were chatting about today, right? Don't go reinvent the wheel. Like, these guys know what's going on. Just use their words alone, and let's recalculate. Let's kind of like make some cool combinations, expand a little bit if you want, but like stay true to the nature of this conversation. That's where you can skip a lot of that hard work of the writing, right? Because writing can be a long process. And you go ahead and use that. And now we've got some great content for people who prefer to read it. Or if you want to, stuff it into something else or an ebook. Now we can generate some things. I'll probably write a book later on this year. I'll definitely use AI this time around. I didn't last time. I actually used webinars last time to help me write a book, but this time I'd probably use AI, but I'm going to use it in a way where I can't get that fake content, right? Someone opens up that book, and if they spot that fake content, then I'm toast. So I got to be responsible with the use of it.
So, I mean, for an overarching theme, it sounds like, if I hear you right, you're saying AI is all about the prompts and you using the prompts the right way. Would that be correct?
Right now it is. My super secret AI friend was actually explaining to me that there will come a time and day when you don't even need to be good at writing prompts, because AI will understand that you're an idiotic human and you can only prompt so well, and to go ahead and use your goofy words to write its own prompts, right? So there will become a day and a time where you just kind of, do your caveman ugh ugh, and then it'll go, oh, you wanted SaaS software for telephone repair. Got it. Here you go. But for now, yeah, the prompts are going to be important. The prompts and the data, right? The sample data for it to work with, that's going to be key. What are we looking for? And then where do I get the information from? We don't want to just let it get information from wherever. Let's give it the experts that have the audience.
So is that mentioning the experts in the prompts? Talk a little bit more about that, as far as what are you asking for as far as cleaner data, not just anywhere.
Yeah, and this ties into like, one podcast episode, multiple podcast episodes, these conversations, taking these words. Like, imagine me having interviews on a couple different podcasts. Take the words, put it together. Hey, what were the best ways I say it? What were the worst ways? How can we combine that into like the ultimate guesting experience? But we're not saying go over here and just totally invent a whole new talk track for me. I want to talk about this stuff. So we're kind of giving it blinders. It's almost like it's a horse with the little things on. Like, no, don't go look over there with a bunch of carrots and apples you can go eat. No. Face forward, stay on the road, look forward. I want you to go this way, but help me navigate that and help me refine that.
So it's almost like you're adding if I hear you right, a human touch to AI. by letting it know, which I didn't know you could do. Stay within the confines. I mean, if I'm right, stay within the confines of just this conversation. That's an actual prompt to make it not go bajing out into the web and talk about marketing. And everyone that talked about marketing, you can actually tell it to stay within the confines somehow, to stay within the confines of a conversation.
Yeah. You say, hey, don't go out there and gobble up Seth Godin. Let's gobble up Casey Cheshire. Let's go. Right. And then, hey, maybe you need to correct for grammar, maybe a little APA formatting, but like, let's just make sure that we stay within the reins here. And that can be fantastic. So oftentimes I've heard like restriction can be the expression. So to restrict can actually create that much better content because you're not opening up to just the floodgates.
We have covered a lot of ground in a short period of time when it comes to building meaningful relationships in an AI-driven world. Someone listening or watching is like, you made a lot of sense. As far as doing it, if you were to say, you know what, at least do this one thing to have build and maintain meaningful relationships in a more consistently AI-driven world, what would you tell people to do? What's the most important thing that's top of mind for you with doing that the right way?
Definitely pick up pickleball, and join a league. Actually, I have no idea. I've never played pickleball yet, but one day I hope to do that. No, it really goes back to that, just the idea of having that organic conversation, and you don't have some sort of ulterior motives other than just learning more about these people. It's so weird. It's so counterintuitive. I don't know. There's something about it, but you just got to do it and do it over coffee. Do it over beers. Have a blast. I just had beers in a marketing conversation just last week, and it was the coolest experience. I learned a ton about my customer, and I had some great IPAs at the same time. So it doesn't have to be some cold, dark interrogation. This can be a fun experiment, but just the one thing is have some conversations, send an email, say, hey, I'd love to just grab a few moments of your time. I'd love to understand, the challenges you're facing and how we can, and this is not to a prospect, by the way, don't start go to someone who already is working with you and it could give you a few minutes of time, and just start picking their brain and learning more about them and suspend whatever you think you know about them.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Casey. And if people want to find you online, where's the best place or places to go?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn, Casey Cheshire, or ringmaster.com.
Thank you again. This has been excellent. I appreciate the time.
Heck yeah, man. This is cool. I love this show.
And scene.
And scene.